Nothing went according to plan. Before we even got on our first flight, we were scattered to the wind.
Our flights were canceled, and then we got split into 6 different travel itineraries, and so we had 6 different flights. We were all leaving the airports at different times. We were all going to different airports, but we all eventually made it to Honduras 2 days later than anticipated.
Now that we're there, our next day, it was supposed to start construction, but God had a different plan because it was pouring down the rain and construction was canceled. So then we were all going to go to the school to do a VBS.
But because of the crazy rain, it literally closed down the schools. So we went anyways, and we were still able to do a Bible school with 250 kids that decided to come to school.
We didn't plan to have to walk through ankle-deep mud to do our evangelism. But God used a Honduran woman in a local home to wash our feet to teach us about servanthood.
So normally when we do evangelism in the afternoons, the men are out working. But because of the rain, a lot of those men were home. In fact, I got the personal opportunity to witness to 2 men who were home because of that. And they and their wife and daughter accepted Christ only because of the rain. That rain that we were all so upset with. We couldn't do our construction, we couldn't do our VBS, but God had another plan.
Due to all the difficulty of how these trips started, wasn't our plan for Team 1 and Team 2 to be there at the same time. So we had the blessing of that to occur this year. And by doing so, we all got to worship together, and it was a true night of experience to see God ministering to all of us at the same time.
We were so excited to be able to go work in the high schools, but because of the flooding, we weren't able to go. God had a new and perfect plan for us to go to a rehabilitation center for young men struggling with addictions. We were able to sing songs, we were able to share testimonies, and we were able to just spend time with them. The director there was beyond blessed for us to be able to spend time with them because they rarely get visitors. 17 men came to know Christ that day. We also had the opportunity to go 2 days later to another rehab center, and through this, we were able to have a new ministry in Honduras. We weren't exactly sure how evangelism would go, but one day we were able to come to a man's house who had recently tried to commit suicide, and were able to minister to him right there in his sorrow. We were also able to come upon a 93-year-old woman on her deathbed, and we were actually able to lead her to Christ right there. And one day we came upon a man who was just walking on the street one day, and we stopped to talk to him by chance. He wasn't in the plans, but we talked to him. He was an addict, and he felt too guilty, too bad, too dirty to come to Christ. And right there, we led him to Christ that day.
It's always a blessing to be able to give someone something material and then to give them something eternal. And those families got to receive that rice and beans, and they got to understand that this is a free gift. Love is the reason we're here. Love is the reason we're giving you this food. Love is the reason we're sharing with you the gospel.
Just like the rest of our trip, the high school ministry didn't go as planned. We weren't able to actually go until the last day and a half of week 2, but when we did go, there were hundreds of kids ready and eager to meet with us. We sang worship songs in Spanish. We were also able to share testimonies, and we also prayed for hundreds and hundreds of high school students, and dozens came to know Christ that day.
Well, there was a day we finally got to do some construction. Once again, though, it wasn't according to our plan because we're tromping through the mud, trying to lay block with it still raining some. And it's just difficult.
Team 2 showed up, and the heat showed up, and the tropical heat showed up, and it was back to being Honduras in the summer. The last day, we got everything up except the very front piece of concrete over the front doors. But we got a picture on our way home of that all done. The church men had come together the day we left and started and finished that day.
Our plans may have seemed right, but in reality, God had his way through this whole trip, week 1 and week 2.
His plans are so much better than ours that 192 people, 192 people are not facing the gates of hell because his plans are so much better than ours.